Both of my parents passed through the Nazi Holocaust. They were both in the Warsaw Ghetto from September 1939 to April 1943. When the ghetto uprising was put down, they were both deported to Majdanek concentration camp. My father was in Auschwitz, in the Auschwitz Death March. My mother was in 2 slave labor camps. Every single member of their family on both sides, my mother and father, every member was exterminated. I had no aunt, no uncle, no cousin, grandmother, grandparent, nothing, 0. We were 5 people in the world. And after the war, it happened, and my mother testified at several trials to Nazi war criminals in Germany and in the United States. Now, Professor Dershowitz, if you go on his website, he says that my late mother was a Nazi collaborator. You know, you have to sink pretty low to start making statements like that. People think, well, there's got to be some truth to it. He's a Harvard professor. It can't be completely made up. And of course, Professor Dershowitz relies on, and I don't mean this pejoratively, I mean it literally, he relies on the Hitlerian strategy. For those of you who've read Mein Kampf, Hitler makes the interesting insight. He says, if you make a small lie, people think maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. But when you make a colossal lie, some spectacular lie, people think it must be true. Because nobody could be so brazen as to make that claim unless it were true. And so Hitler says when it comes to lies, it's counterintuitive. I'm using my word. It's counterintuitive. That is to say, the credibility of lies increases with the size of a lie. A bigger lie is more credible than a smaller lie. And Professor Dershowitz understands that perfectly well. And so he makes this brazen lie. His mother was a Nazi collaborator, knowing full well, even people in this room right now, though they won't admit it, they're thinking, there's got to be some truth to it. Otherwise, how could he be saying it? Now, why do I bring it up? I went to the dean of Harvard Law School, Dean Elena Kagan, and I says, you know, Professor Dershowitz has that on the Harvard Law School website, which is to say, it has your imprimatur on it. Don't you think he should have to take it down? That's not a violation of free speech. He has his own website. But on the Harvard Law School website, I know if I did something comparable at my university, in 5 minutes, you get a call, take that off. So Dean Kagan won't answer me. I finally put to her 2 questions. Number 1, do you think there's any evidence for that claim of his? And number 2, do you have any limits on your website about what can and can't be posted? She refuses to answer question 1. And to question 2, she says, we have broad limits. So I replied and said, well, broad limits does not mean no limits. So for example, Dean Kagan, if somebody posted, a Harvard professor posted on the website that Dean Kagan's mother was a whore, would you have it taken down? Well, at this point, she got really indignant, and she wrote back, I think we'll stop talking now. And some of you are laughing, but really ask yourself, which is more hideous? Which is more hideous? To say Dean Kagan's mother was a whore, or to say my late mother, after having endured the Nazi Holocaust in its worst, most egregious form, she's now, after her death, having this label pinned on her, which, as I say, I think even people in this room secretly harbor the thought, must be something true to it, that she was a Nazi collaborator. But Dean Kagan won't make him take it down. And that's what makes him possible. It's not him. It's the institutions that protect him, that won't review my book, not because they think it's false, but because they know it's true. But it's not really true, what I wrote, because you have to understand this is the cause. It's like the communists in the 1930s. There's that cause, and the cause is bigger than truth and bigger than justice as ordinary mortals understand it. There's a bigger truth and a bigger cause with a capital, and justice with a capital T and a capital J. That yes, everything they're saying about Stalin is true. That's true with a little t. There's the bigger truth about Stalin and that great communist tomorrow. And in the name of the bigger truth, the little truths pale by comparison. And that's how they feel about their cause of Israel. It's the cause. And maybe what Finkelstein's saying is true, but it's only true with a little t. And what he's saying is just, well, maybe, but with a little j. There's the bigger T and the bigger J about Israel, and everything else pales by comparison. So even if what he says it's true, it's not really true. But you see, ordinary people, they won't understand that. They don't understand the bigger truth and the little truth, the bigger J and the little j. So we can't review the book. We can't mention it. Because they won't understand it's only true in the lower case. And so everyone protects him. They all protect each other. And that's what created a Professor Dershowitz. He is not the problem. It's the institutions that created, protect, and immunize him. They're the problem. I think we'll leave it at that.